Hi everyone, welcome back. We are going to continue reading Entitled. Now, we are halfway through, so let us decide what book we are going to read next. My plan is to read the Tupac book. However, I purchased it today and then I canceled the order because it's $40 and I'm like, my birthday is on the 29th of this month. So I'm like, that's what I'm asking for my birthday. So we are going to read Tupac, but I think we might end up finishing this before I lay my hands on it. So may I present to you my two top contenders. Okay, The Royals by Kitty Kelly, which is just the hot goss. Okay, it is so dishy that when Prince Philip heard that she was writing this book, he threatened to sue her. So there's that. Now, if we need a break from the Royals, I got this today. John Wayne, American. I was raised on John Wayne, okay? Like, when I tell you that there is a sketch of John Wayne framed in my house, I'm not joking. I'll put the picture of it right here so you can see. Like, I love John Wayne. I don't know much about him as a man. I think he was a very complicated person. So when I say I love John Wayne, don't come at me and be like, he was this, he was that, he was racist, he was this, he hit his wife. Like, I don't know. Maybe all of that's true, but we'll find out. Anyway, what I really like about this book is that it's written by two university professors. One's from Purdue. And the bibliography is good. Like, they have so many notes. Like, hold on, I'm just trying to get to the... Okay. Like, all of this at the back is just notes and bibliography, which I love. So this is written by guys who know how to research. So I love that. So yeah, those are my two contenders. I also have one on Emmeline Pankhurst. It's her own. It's called. Is it called My Story or something? There's so many books called My Story, you wouldn't even believe it. I was on my local library website and I was trying to find if they had the Leslie Player book, which I've ordered, which is also called My Story. Sarah Ferguson's called My Story. There are so many autobiographies called My Story. It's wild. Okay, so these are the two contenders. Sorry about the light. So let me know what you think. I honestly am not leaning in. If I'm leaning towards John Wayne, it's because I thought maybe we might need a break from the Royals because this is our second book in a row. But of course, our books have been very specifically about Sarah and Andrew. This starts out talking about Margaret. Like the very first page of the first chapter, I was like, the tea. All right, so you tell me, please comment, please comment and let me know. Okay, let's continue with Entitled. We'll try to do a good reading. I'm sorry that they've been posted at such odd hours. It's because after I should be reading ahead. I just don't have time. So like when I sit down and read, this is my first time reading it. I'm reading it along with you. And then I have to go and get all the pictures. But I really find, like, because I then kind of like, I don't fully watch them back, but I do kind of go through them. And I think the pictures do add so much context because there are so many names and so many places. And if I can't see a visual, then it's all just theoretical to me. It's so abstract. So if it's like she was staying in this city and then I see a picture of the city, I'm like, oh, and I can suddenly make a mental image of her, bashing about that town. All right, so where did we leave off? We talked about her Weight Watchers. Okay, I went and watched the Weight Watchers commercials. They're on YouTube. She's likable. Oh my gosh. I'll link them. I mean, I know you can go and search them, but I'll just link them. And I'll see if I can find that that interview that she did with Ruby Wax. See if that's on there. But oh my gosh, like when I saw her in those Weight Watchers commercials, and oh yeah, and in the Ocean Spray cranberry juice commercial, I'll link that too. I just thought, I mean, I liked her. Like I liked her in those. So I mean, I think she just had a very, she was charismatic. There's something about her. Anyway. All right, so we talked about like her Weight Watchers and oh yeah, and then she was doing the Wedgwood thing. Man, I wish she could have stayed if she had kept on that path of like doing Weight Watchers and like Ocean Spray and Wedgwood. She was just as cute as a button. All right. This chapter is entitled Palace Control. Andrew was also in the news. In October 1998, days after he met the Queen's new head of communications, Simon Lewis, to discuss his public image, he cheerfully told The Sun on an official visit to Malta that courtiers had constantly lied to the public and press for 20 years. The difficulty now is trying to convince you, the press, that what you are now being told is the truth. You cannot believe you are being told the truth because for the last 20 years you probably haven't been. It's like the Russians. The initial reaction from Buckingham Palace was that the royal family were now getting it right. They then persuaded the Press Association not to run the story. After Andrew had accepted an invitation to discuss his comments on David Frost's Breakfast with Frost, Prince Charles had intervened and his brother's appearance was cancelled. The palace quickly put out a statement. Further to certain articles that have appeared in this morning's press, the Duke of York wishes to make clear that the inference that palace officials had lied to the media in the past is incorrect. In fact, Andrew had been right. According to journalist James Whittaker, for even longer than 2 decades, I have been on the end of half-truths, distortion, and carefully constructed denials, citing as examples reporting on Diana's anorexia and the marriage difficulties of Princess Anne, Charles, and Margaret. The Duchess had now broadened her activities into music management, her management company signing up the 4-piece rock band Reflector, promising to turn them into the new Oasis under producer George Martin and with a slot at a Children in Crisis charity event. Has anyone ever heard of Reflector? I'll have to look them up. The introduction, and if they're very famous, please don't mock me. I don't know. The introduction had come through Katie Walker, a self-styled healer who believed in a past life that she had been Catherine of Braganza, wife of Charles II. Catherine's best friend had been the then Duchess of York, and this had created a karmic bond between the present Duchess and the healer, with whom she had become sufficiently friendly for the two of them to go on holiday together. The Duchess's accountant, Jeremy Scott, had been organizing a portfolio of businesses for Sarah through her new company, Fireside Communications, and the lead singer, Gareth Nugent, and his band members were signed up as Sarah wanted to produce his song, Our World, using her music contacts such as Elton John and Robert Stigwood. Feeling that little was happening in terms of representation, the band arranged a meeting with Scott to discuss the future. When they arrived, they found 2 burly men blocking the exit, and the band were not allowed to leave until they had signed NDAs. It appeared the instructions had come from the palace. Turning 40. In October 1999, Sarah turned 40, but the 2 days of celebration she had planned were cancelled after the death of her old flatmate and close friend, Carolyn Cotterill, a mother of 3, aged 43, after an 18-month battle against skin cancer. Cotterill was Beatrice's godmother, and Sarah was godmother to her friend's eldest child, a very attentive and generous one, according to friends. The birthday was spent not in celebration, but in tears at the funeral of the woman she described as her guardian angel. The birthday more publicly was marked by a profile in the Times by Ginny Duggery, illustrated by the Duchess, photographed in a sheet by Terry O'Neill. Duggery found her extremely personable and genuinely curious about people, judging her to be utterly without guile or artifice, and not calculating enough, if anything, for her own good. She is clearly a loving mother and a loyal friend, even to those who, one might think, don't deserve it. The interview was, however, to prove controversial for several reasons. The Duchess claimed that for the 7 years after Beatrice's birth, she had had a huge mental breakdown from postnatal depression. With a characteristic lack of self-awareness, she also maintained the couple had got divorced because I had to go out to work, and Andrew and I believed that it wasn't right for me to be commercial while I was still in the royal family. I don't think that was the reason at all. She hinted she would like to try for a third child, had not ruled out remarrying Andrew, and reflected on her relationship with the royal family. The Duke of Edinburgh does not need me. The Prince of Wales does not need me. They think I'm pointless. Therefore, why should they make the effort? The birthday was a moment for assessment by the press. Linda Lee Potter, never previously a fan, wrote, "She's a woman of excess, who has repaid her gigantic debts, but continues to be generous to a fault. She still says daft things, but I feel a kind of irritated affection tinged with respect for her. She's never complained, and in the end, she's achieved a dignity of her own." But the more cynical, especially at Buckingham Palace, felt the Duchess was simply mounting a PR campaign to win acceptance for the idea of remarriage, which only the Queen could authorize, or at least readmittance to the bosom of the royal family, and with it the status that underpinned her business success. Just hours after telling one newspaper, "I'm proud of the fact that I married him, and I love him very much," Sarah and her daughters had jetted off to her lover, this last name again, the Count, in Italy for a birthday celebration. I really should look that up, how to pronounce it. Among those most opposed in the royal family to remarriage were Prince Charles, Princess Margaret, Prince Edward, who had not invited Sarah to his wedding in spite of her daughters being bridesmaids, and Prince Philip, who accused her of living in the land of Nod and a squalid public relations exercise. But there were suspicions that neither Andrew nor Sarah really wanted to remarry. The journalist Toby Young noticed that, while in Britain, the couple presented the image that she had never stopped loving the Duke of York, nor had he stopped loving her. In America, away from the paparazzi and the carefully choreographed publicity pictures, Andrew's appetite for a pretty, available single girl, no secret when he was a young, unattached bachelor, emerges once again. And we know how far, don't we? Young's assessment was, this word's hard for me, perspicacious. In June, there are so many words I don't know. In June 1999, during a 5-hour flight from Los Angeles to Hawaii for a dedication ceremony for the new Gemini astronomical telescope, the Duke had met a glamorous 40-year-old Californian socialite, Melissa Lincoln, and they had exchanged numbers. On arrival, he rang her 5 times, and she invited him to have dinner at her 3,500-pound-a-night bungalow at the Moana Lani Bay Hotel. Her multi-millionaire husband, J.D. Lincoln, already suspecting her of having an affair, had tasked a private detective to tail her and planted a camera in a bush outside her bungalow. When she was caught on film dining with a strange man, he was surprised to find it was not prime suspect Kevin Costner, whom he had believed was having an affair with his wife, but Prince Andrew, there with 5 detectives. "I set a trap for a fox and caught a bear," he admitted. A spokesman for the Duke stressed, there was no suggestion of romantic involvement at this dinner, but it raised questions about the quality of Andrew's security, that the 5 detectives had not noticed the private investigator hiding in the bushes. When Lindsay, I don't know how I got that name. When Christy Turlington dropped out of a dinner for Andrew, organized by Lynn Rothschild, in October 1999, Rothschild invited in her place Alexandra Styron, the daughter of the Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist William Styron, author of Sophie's Choice. The 33-year-old, who had found another date fixed by Rothschild a few weeks earlier, Kevin Costner, a dope, was taken with Andrew. I mean, I don't know if Kevin Costner is smart or not, but I just can't imagine that anyone could be more of a dope than Andrew. So to be like, Kevin Costner, he's a dope, and then besotted with Andrew? Okay. After dinner, they went out to a nightclub where she let it be known the evening did not end without a kiss. I don't get it. I mean, I get it when he was very young, like, what do they say? Like the death of a twink. I mean, I know he wasn't a twink in the sense of being gay, but like, just like that pretty boy, like he was a beautiful young man, no doubt. But by the time he was in his 30s and 40s, I think the bloom was off the rose. I mean, none of us escape, but my mother always says you get the face you deserve in life. So it's like the picture of Dorian Gray, starts out so beautiful. Yikes. Enter Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, might I let you know that we are now into part 4 of this book entitled Epstein. On the morning of 9 February 1999, a small group gathered at Teterboro Airport just outside New York, ready to catch a Gulfstream jet to St. Thomas, second largest of the U.S. Virgin Islands. One of the 3 waiting passengers was the glamorous socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, who had fled to New York in 1991 from the UK on a $100,000 annual allowance to support her father, Robert Maxwell's business activities. Shortly afterwards, the media baron, with long-standing connections to British, Russian, and Israeli intelligence, had met a sudden and mysterious death, whether from suicide, an accident, or, as his youngest daughter believed, murder. Her personal assistant, Emmy Taylor, waited with her. The third and final member of the group was Prince Andrew. He claimed he had met Ghislaine while she was at Oxford in the 1980s, but it is far more likely he had been introduced to her through his ex-wife. Both women were well known on the New York social circuit. Andrew and Ghislaine were good friends, and over the years had been occasional lovers, and through her the prince had come into the ambit of her boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein was 7 years older than Andrew and had made a fortune from his own money management firm, J. Epstein and Company, handling $15 billion on behalf of a group of secretive clients as financial advisor to the billionaire Leslie Wexner, chairman of the lingerie firm Victoria's Secret, and, as he himself described, a financial bounty hunter. Epstein had also been involved in a Ponzi scheme soliciting over $500 million in investments, which he had then spent on himself. The lantern-jawed New Yorker had stood by Ghislaine after the death of her father and the subsequent discoveries of Robert Maxwell's crimes and, according to bank records, over the period of 1999 to 2007, would give her more than $30 million to restore her to the lifestyle to which she had become accustomed. In return, the well-connected Oxford graduate played a crucial role in Epstein's complicated but lucrative business and personal life, introducing him to influential contacts and organizing a steady stream of young girls to be supplied to the very same men who would then be blackmailed, as well as satisfying his own demanding sexual needs. I think there is like a special place in hell for these kind of people. It has been suggested the connections go further back, and that Robert Maxwell, before his death, entrusted Epstein with up to $20 million to hide from creditors. There were also long-standing connections between Maxwell and Donald Trump. They had both bid for the New York Post and often met socially. A product of working-class Coney Island, Epstein owned houses all over the world, including a 50,000-square-foot townhouse, the largest in Manhattan, valued at $77 million, an 8,000-acre ranch in New Mexico, and a home in Palm Beach, 2 miles from Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. It was, however, to his 72-acre private island, sometimes known as Little St. Jeff's, replete with helipad, lagoon, and villa, served by a staff of 70, which he had bought the year before for $7.95 million, that the party was now heading by helicopter. The trip was not, and never has been, listed on any of Andrew's official schedules because he was not there on official business. His visit was purely for pleasure. Over the years, the extent of that pleasure would become clear. Gag. Andrew returned 3 days later, accompanied by one of the women provided by Epstein for the enjoyment of his guests, Anna Malova, appointed Miss Russia the previous year in order to compete in the 1998 Miss Universe competition, and a close friend of Donald Trump. The Duke of York claims to have only met Epstein earlier that year, though it is unlikely that such a close relationship could have been nurtured in a matter of weeks. Well, to play devil's advocate, I don't think that Jeffrey Epstein would need a lot of time to decide to be close friends with the Prince of England. So I can see that it could have happened really quickly. But again, it's unlikely. I'm sure that they were in contact for longer. The truth is, Andrew and his ex-wife had known the financier for almost a decade by then. According to Andrew's private secretary, Alistair Watson, the two men had met in the early 1990s. The flight log of Epstein's plane alone, known as the Lolita Express because it flew so many young girls, revealed the Duchess traveled on it with Epstein the previous April. Whatever the exact dates of their first meeting, Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew had by then become business contacts and friends, united by a shared interest in money and sex. In April 1999, Epstein threw Andrew a dinner at his Manhattan townhouse, and the following month, according to Miles and Kathy Alexander, a South African couple hired to manage Epstein's Caribbean property, the Duke came to the private island via helicopter, with his bodyguard and a woman in her 30s, who said she was a brain surgeon. She was tall, bleach blonde, and had big boobs. They shared a room and spent most of their time on windsurfing, sailing, or doing other water sports. One day he came back to the house in great mirth, claiming his guest had stepped on a sea urchin, and he urinated on her foot as a remedy. "The royal member has done its duty," he chuckled. In July, Andrew invited Epstein and Ghislaine to visit Balmoral for an overnight stay at the 7-bedroom Craigowyn Lodge on the estate. Oh, this could not have been good for the Queen. They arrived accompanied by 2 friends, Fiona Fawley and Eric Taylor. One, a model in her 20s, related how on the first night Andrew provided a tour of the estate. "He was really nice," she said. "He was very polite." The next day, they had a picnic in the grounds of the castle. Then, just before dinner, which was to be filet of beef, the Duke apparently became incandescent with rage, screaming, "Who was the—" It's all start out, I think it's, the F word. "Who was the blank idiot who cut the meat up?" sending the cook into the pantry in tears. Other staff, accustomed to the Duke's tantrums on virtually a daily basis, covertly exchanged knowing glances. By the time the meat had been barbecued, the Duke was all smiles and full of compliments for the cook. I just spit. On her victorious sponge, which was his way of apologizing. That's what he always does. Explode one minute and then try to take it back the next. Andrew's friendship with Epstein continued, with invitations to Windsor, and his shooting weekend at Sandringham in January 2000. The following month, the prince, introducing himself to guests as Andrew York, was photographed with Ghislaine and Epstein at a party at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago Country Club in Palm Beach. There he took a fancy to two 20-something guests, Gwendolyn Beck and Christina Drangsholt. Beck managed about $65 million of Epstein's investment funds for Morgan Stanley and had already met the Duke the previous year, and brought along her friend Drangsholt, who ran a mail-order business that specialized in selling testosterone, the hormone that enhances the male sex drive, which she advertised as "get more bang for your buck." Where do they drag these people out? The next day, after a round of golf with Trump, Andrew joined the two women at the pool. They had a wonderful time, according to Drangsholt, who later distributed pictures of herself with the prince to social and business contacts, calling him charming and very attractive, but insisting they were all just good friends. In December 2019, Donald Trump, interviewed on television, would deny knowing Andrew, in spite of extensive photographic records of their public meetings going back 20 years, including the visit to Trump's Palm Beach home in February 2000. In October 2000, both of them had attended Heidi Klum's Halloween costume party, at which Trump was quoted as saying of Andrew, "He's not pretentious. He's a lot of fun to be with." In a 2015 interview with Fox News host Sean Hannity, Trump would be asked what he thought of the former President Bill Clinton. He replied, "Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein." When a Bloomberg reporter asked Mr. Trump what problems he thought Mr. Clinton would face, he replied, "I don't know, but that island is really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool." He was talking about Little St. James, which Andrew had first visited back in 1999. One of Palm Beach's wealthiest residents, who knew both Epstein and Trump, related how the future president had tried to distance himself from Jeffrey Epstein by claiming he wasn't close to him. It's the furthest thing from the truth. The witness recalled attending several functions at which both men were present, including one in 2002, where they were sitting at the same table and talking to each other most of the time. The source also claimed the two men were involved in several business deals. "Terrific guy," Trump told New York Magazine. "He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." Where are we? During 2000, Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein invited Prince Andrew, by now enjoying his status as a divorced man, to a number of social events in New York, including a house party by designer Ralph Lauren and a £630 a head charity concert in aid of the American Friends of the London Philharmonic Orchestra. The Duke continued to spend time with Epstein and Ghislaine, often staying at the millionaires' homes in New York or Florida. The Duchess of York frequently stayed there too. She stayed 3 times in the year to April 2000. That summer, a British couple staying with Ghislaine met Andrew at a party at Epstein's house, where guests, including a 2-time Oscar-winning actress, played games of virtual tennis on the huge movie screen in the basement. The next night, they ate at a neighborhood restaurant and were told Andrew would be joining them. As one recollected, "I remember seeing him sitting at a table at the far end with these 3 young, not underage, blonde girls when we walked in. He immediately got up, I imagined, to join us, but instead he said goodbye and left with them in tow. It was all very strange." Ivan Novikov, Jeffrey Epstein's personal driver, remembered, "Whenever Andrew was in town, I'd be picking up young girls who were essentially prostitutes," he continued. "One time I drove Prince Andrew and 2 young girls around age 18 to the Gainsborough Hotel in the meatpacking district. Both girls were doing lines of cocaine. Prince Andrew was making out with one of them." Ew. Listen, people can say all they want that you're an adult when you're 18. You're not. You know, I find that men like to say, like, oh, well, when you're 18, you're an adult. Like, oh, yeah, because that suits your purpose. But speaking as a woman who was once 18 years old, I can tell you, when I was 18 years old, I was the farthest thing from an adult. Good grief. Epstein's housekeeper, Deborah Gale, alleged Andrew's interest in young women. One night he took a Swedish girl to his bedroom. They spent the entire night together and most of the next day. Pressed further, Gale added, when the girls would leave Andrew's bedroom, I'd give them an envelope Mr. Epstein left with anywhere from $1,000 to $25,000 in it. Sending on the girl and the situation. $25,000? Like, no wonder these girls were doing this. Good grief. Good grief. All right. Andrew's friends had taken pity on him, ostensibly spending his weekday evenings watching videos in his Buckingham Palace apartment. His new social life was orchestrated by the identical Wigram twins, Camilla and Lucy, both of whom were friends with Andrew's former girlfriend, Cassie Neville, who also began to introduce him to eligible women. Another key matchmaker, Mala Lindsay, hosted a series of parties for the Duke in her luxurious apartment in Chelsea Harbor. Maybe it's Mala. Did I say Mala? Mala. Where, it was said, the Concord crowd meets the Inverness sleeper set. A friend of Sarah's explained, Andrew is a strange guy. He likes to have his women on a plate. The shorter the skirt and the slimmer the figure, the better. And Mala's great gift is that she is a superb matchmaker. As a result, Andrew was chosen as number 1 on the Tatler's most invited party list in July 2000. He loved being top of the Tatler list and couldn't stop talking about it, a friend said. He was boasting about it even. Whatever his public statements, Andrew was now emotionally free of Sarah, much to her distress. A lapel badge given to him at the Staffordshire factory making Massey Ferguson tractors, which he had had pinned to his office door at the palace, and said, I love my Fergie, was removed. Oh, I think maybe he really did love her at one point. Anyway, for years the Duchess had put a brake on his romantic life. According to one friend, if he did meet a girl, Sarah would always find fault with her and put him off. Now that they had been divorced for 4 years, he felt free to play the field. Wow. Okay, like I know he was a cheating dog, but it seems like in his way he did love her. He had met his next girlfriend, Audrey Rambold, at the Ryder Cup in Massachusetts in September 1999. The following month, she was to be listed several times on the Lolita Express. Rambold was 16 years his junior and an actress. She had been the body double for Judith Godrich in the 1998 film The Man in the Iron Mask, the film school graduate. She also spoke French, English, and Spanish, dividing her time between an apartment in Paris and her parents' chateau near Monte Carlo. Like Andrew, she played off a handicap of 8, and for the previous 5 years had been working for a firm called Promo Golf. She became a regular visitor to Buckingham Palace and Windsor, though when pressed about the nature of their relationship replied, "We are just friends." For his 40th birthday on 19 February, the prince, with his ex-wife and daughters, enjoyed a ride on the London Eye. For security reasons, the royal party had their own capsule, and members of the public were not allowed on until 45 minutes after their arrival at 11 that morning, with the result that some people had to wait for up to 2 hours. "You lot are nothing but freeloaders," screamed one man as the Yorks emerged from a jag and stepped straight into one of the pods. That evening the family held a £30,000 birthday party for the prince at Sunninghill. Sarah Ferguson had organized a 30-minute video tribute based on the television program This Is Your Life, featuring, among others, Elton John, and, in honor of Andrew's Royal Navy service, staff had laid out the canopies around models of ships and helicopters, and a fleet of tiny wooden yachts on each table. The senior royals, the Queen, Prince Philip, Princess Anne, Prince Charles, and Prince Edward did not attend, amid continuing concerns that Sarah had been leaking stories about them to the press. The relationship since the divorce had grown even frostier. Andrew's dignity silence over his wife's behavior had won him public sympathy and palace recognition that he might spearhead a campaign to restore the monarchy's tarnished image after the continuing revelations of Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles. In mid-March, he set off on a 10-day tour of the Caribbean. At Easter, he flew with his ex-wife and children to stay in the Bahamas with Irish businessman Tony O'Reilly, and visited, but not, as is often claimed, stayed with, fashion tycoon Peter Nygaard's property, which featured smoke-breathing snake sculptures, a 50-foot faux Mayan temple, and nude statues based on Nygaard's past girlfriends. Oh my God, Peter Nygaard. He was like this Canadian fashion mogul. I think he was originally, I don't know what he was. Swedish, maybe? Anyway, there was like Nygaard. There was like, I think he had a couple different things under his name. And I think he's dead now. But there was this big scandal because I think he was arrested for child sexual content. Yeah. So it's all coming together, isn't it? The puzzle pieces. So he must have been in cahoots with Andrew and Epstein. Huh. Okay. Doesn't his place sound tacky? If I can find pictures, of course, I'll post them, but it sounds horrid. Fire, smoke-breathing snake sculptures, a faux Mayan temple, and nude statues based on ex-girlfriends. Like, what in the world? Money can't buy you taste, that's for sure. Andrew had resumed his on-off affair with Ghislaine Maxwell. In May, they were spotted holding hands at Nello's restaurant in Madison Avenue before flying to Miami with model Naomi Campbell and Alexia Wallert, a Parisian art dealer on the Lolita Express. The following month, Ghislaine and Epstein were pictured with Andrew at Royal Ascot, and they were among the 800 guests at the black tie Dance of the Decades, marking Andrew's 40th birthday, Princess Anne's 50th, Princess Margaret's 70th, and the Queen Mother's 100th. The relationship with Ghislaine was also good business. I just think it must have been so humiliating to the royal family when they realized that this guy had been in their midst. Yikes. According to one of her friends, Cynthia Matthews, they did foreign deals together, including a highly lucrative tobacco deal in Malawi. I told her she was crazy to get involved in it. She didn't seem to care, and she admitted to me that Prince Andrew helped broker the deal. Matthews said Ghislaine also told her about a luxury vehicle deal she had going on with Prince Andrew in Thailand. She said Andrew loved Thailand and spent a lot of time there. Well, jeepers, I wonder why. The June issue of Tatler carried a 12-page interview with the Duke by the editor Geordie Craig on the £250 million fundraising campaign for the NSPCC, in which Andrew confided amid rumors that he had raised the issue over lunch with Tony Blair. I don't rule a remarriage out, and I certainly don't rule it in. Adding that he knew his reputation was that of cack-handed, blonde dating oaf. Yeah. In reaction, bookies slashed the odds on remarriage from 33-1 to 3-1, and a Daily Mirror poll showed that nearly 90% of its readers wanted the couple to remarry. But a friend of the Duchess said, "There is not a chance of her putting her head back into that lion's cage." Greg found the prince open, warm, and has a surprising moral strength. How do you know that just from sitting down with a guy for an interview? Come on. You don't know someone's moral strength until you see them in a tough situation. He is different from the caricature we apply to him, a strong-minded and unconventional young man, articulate and forceful. There's certainly no trace of hauteur, sorry, hauteur, remoteness, or even noblesse oblige. The Count from Italy also rubbish claims that Andrew and Sarah might remarry, saying that his 3-year relationship with the Duchess, who he called the Red Thunderbolt, was as strong as ever, and explaining she had just thrown him a 50th birthday party. In August, they were pictured embracing as they cruised on his yacht off the coast of Sardinia. The press had, however, wondered, over the previous 3 years, how serious the relationship was, and whether, like many of the Duchess's apparent romantic relationships, it was not simply a business arrangement. After it had been uncovered that he had paid her £25,000 a time to take part in various publicity stunts, including promoting Livorno's new docks. That July, after the Queen had overruled objections from courtiers, Andrew staged a charity tennis match in the grounds of Buckingham Palace for the NSPCC. Guests paying £2,500 a head and entertained by Art Garfunkel watched John McEnroe beat Bjorn Borg. The match was broadcast live on BBC Two and raised over £1 million worldwide. Journalist Richard Kay revealed that the Duke had also dined every night of the last week of July with Caroline Stanbury, a goddaughter of Susan Ferguson. Oh, that's Sarah's stepmother, Susan Ferguson. Oh man, he's keeping it close, isn't he? Part of the Vesti dynasty, one of the richest families in Britain, Stanbury had previously been linked with the footballer Ryan Giggs, Prince Albert of Monaco, and actors Sylvester Stallone and Hugh Grant. According to friends, Andrew was besotted with the PR girl, 16 years his junior. She claimed to be only a friend, but the interviewer for You magazine suggested the sideways glance to her publicist suggests a rehearsed response. In a familiar pattern, the two were keen to keep their relationship secret. After they were spotted leaving the nightclub China White, they split up moments before walking out into a barrage of flashlights and a perspiring prince in open-necked shirt and jeans leading the way. Andrew had become a regular at China White on Wednesday nights and was often to be seen dining at Nobu, the Met Bar, and Momo. A particular favorite was the Rock nightclub on Embankment, whose owner, Pierce Adams, remembered the Duke as a very enthusiastic patron. He really goes for it. Sometimes I'll look across the room and catch him doing this really intense hands-in-the-air ravers dance. Journalist Peter Jukes recalled Andrew at China White, dressed in a blazer with gold buttons, slightly incongruous clothing for such a hip joint, and being deputed by the management to take care of him, not least by buying him drinks. Jukes found it hard to make conversation with the Duke, and was relieved when Andrew was distracted by the American socialites Nicky and Paris Hilton. The prince spent the rest of the evening dad dancing with the 19 and 17-year-olds. Jukes noted he sweated profusely. Okay, I had forgotten my cup of tea in the kitchen. Pardon my slurping. I hope it doesn't annoy you too much. One of my dear friends, she hates the sound of people drinking, people eating, and her pet peeve is if I get on the phone and start yapping to her and I'm eating something. I can't help it. I'm always munching. So, how do you feel about this book so far? Take a moment and comment. Please engage. I love it when you engage. It's my favorite thing. Sometimes, light's gone crazy. Sometimes it's one of the only things that keeps me getting up without hitting the snooze button on my alarm is because I know that I'm like, oh, I can go and check the comments and I can respond and engage, and I just love it so much. What do you think so far on this book? Do you feel like you're learning new things, or those of us who did my story? Because I know not everyone who's watching Entitled was there for Sarah Ferguson's book, but I mean, we obviously are hearing more about Andrew, and some things that I think Fergie definitely did not tell us. Like, she definitely did not tell us that she was having an affair while she was pregnant, unless I missed it. Today I was thrifting, and that is where I found the the John Wayne book. And there was another Sarah Ferguson book that she had written herself. So, like, this book was $6.99. Okay. Most of the biographies at the thrift store that I go to are $6.99. But Sarah Ferguson's book was $1.99. And I think that's just because of how people feel about her right now. Okay. I've had my little snack and my little sip, so we'll continue. Maybe this would be a good time for you to pause and go get a cup of tea. All right, this chapter is entitled A Murder Close to Home. At the beginning of October, returning to Sunninghill after taking her daughters to the cinema, the Duchess rammed the gates when they didn't open in time, causing thousands of pounds of damage. She claimed to be stressed, perhaps for good reason. Days before, she had received a call that her former dresser, Jane Andrews, was on the run from the police and had been arrested, having tried to take her own life and charged with killing her boyfriend with a cricket bat. What? Andrews had worked as Sarah's personal assistant from 1988 to 1997, where her tasks included shopping for the Duchess's clothes, as well as persuading top stores such as Harrods and Harvey Nichols to offer discounts and lend outfits. In 1989, aged 22, she had married the divorced Christopher Dunn Butler, 20 years older than her, who had briefly acted as Ferguson's accountant, but he divorced her after 5 years for adultery. The assistant had become a close confidant of the Duchess, and, as an assistant accountant, privy to many of her financial affairs, until sacked. Some said on cost-cutting grounds, others because Sarah suspected her of trying to be romantically involved with the Count. The trollop. She had even begun to imitate Ferguson, adopting the same persona, dress, and speech patterns as her employer, and reputedly seducing Alan Starkey, one of the Duchess's former lovers. The joiner's daughter from Cleethropes had become so grand that Sarah had taken to calling her Lady Jane. She sounds mentally ill. There was a movie that came out in the 90s, and it's like, I forget what it's called. I think it's on Disney Plus now. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. That's what, oh no, I soaked my cookie too long, my biscuit. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. And it's about this nanny, and she comes in and she kind of like starts taking over, you know. I can't remember if she's imitating the mom or not, but I think she does. She starts to imitate, like pretend that she is the child's mother when they're out and about. Anyway, it just made me think of that. After Andrews was let go, the Duchess had helped her find a job with Theo Fennell, but neither it nor a PR post at Claridge's had lasted. In 1998, she had met a businessman from a wealthy family, Tom Cressman, and moved in with him. 2 years later, on holiday in the south of France, the two got into an argument during which Andrews stabbed him in the chest with a kitchen knife, beat him over the head with a cricket bat, and fled. After she was jailed for life, it emerged that royal aides believed Andrews had fleeced the Duchess of £10,000. Questions were asked how, despite her modest salary, she had managed to buy a flat facing Battersea Park and keep £50,000 in her bank account. It has been alleged she stole an even larger sum of money from the Duchess, but this has never been proved legally. Wow. In October 2000, Andrew was in New York, attending a dinner hosted by the Consul General, Thomas Harris. Afterwards, he went on to model Heidi Klum's annual Halloween party at the Hudson nightclub. Theme that year, hookers and pimps. Led by Klum, dressed... I think that is so tasteless and tacky. Hookers and pimps. Are you kidding me? I mean, especially considering that a lot of hookers, sex workers, are, being actually trafficked, and their pimps are their abusers. That's disgusting. That woman. Okay. Led by Klum, dressed in a black PVC catsuit, a spiked dog collar, and wrist restraints. Now, that is just like what a kid thinks that a sex worker looks like. You know what I mean? Anyway. And Ghislaine Maxwell as a prostitute in midriff bearing gold trousers and a blonde wig. I mean, I know that Klum is trying to dress like a dominatrix, but it's just so annoying. A few days later, the Duke headed to Los Angeles. A dinner thrown... every time I read Los Angeles, I always want to say Los Angeles, because that's how my grandfather used to pronounce it. In the 60s and 50s, in that era, he called Chicago. And, okay, I'm getting off track. A few days later, the Duke headed to Los Angeles. At a dinner thrown for him in a local restaurant, he met former Playboy model and actress Denise Martell. Discovering she had a sweet tooth, Andrew ordered the dessert trolley and fed her a chocolate-coated strawberry. I took the entire strawberry in my mouth in one gulp, she later remembered. It was very suggestive. He loved it. By this time, he was holding hands with me under the table. You put a whole strawberry in your mouth? Wow. 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 Incredible. How else do you eat a strawberry? Unless I'm just a pig. But what? Oh my God. This is so banal. Andrew invited her to hit Timothy. Come here. Come here, Timmy. Timmy. Come here, buddy. Timmy. Timmy. Come here. Come here. I know you hear me calling. Come here, buddy. Come here. Here. Timmy. Do you want that, Joey? Timmy. Oh. Sorry, I'm trying to throw a Parley G biscuit to, Oh. I can't get him to notice it. Timmy. Hi. Hey. I'm failing. Okay. Have you ever heard of Parle G biscuits? They're from India. In Canada, we have such a large Indian population, an Indian immigrant population, that little like foods and things from India are like finding their way into our everyday lives. Of course, my boyfriend is also Indian, so that helps too. Okay. Where were we? Ah, yes, I was making fun of her strawberry gulp. Andrew invited her to his hotel, where they chatted in the bar till 2:15 a.m. before he walked her to her car and they kissed. The thought of kissing that man makes me want to vomit. He gave her his number on a piece of paper emblazoned with the motto, his gloriousness. Did he write that himself, or did he have them made up? And they agreed to meet the next night at his 580 £580 a night suite at the Bel Air Hotel. I absolutely wanted to make love to him. Baby, that's not making love. That's something else. She remembered. We stayed on the couch, heavy petting. That makes me feel sick. Both of those terms. Making love and heavy petting. I haven't heard heavy petting since I was a kid. You know, like when you're in youth group and they're telling you, like, now when you're dating, don't be heavy petting. Like, no one says that in real life. I was laying back in his arms. The evening ended inconclusively after Andrew fell asleep. He was tired. Martel joined him in his room for a third night, after he had presented an award to Steven Spielberg at a BAFTA gala. Bringing with her some melon-flavored candles because she thought it had been too bright the night before. He stripped to his boxer shorts, and she lay beside him. Again, he fell asleep, and she let herself out. Well, it sounds like they don't know what they're doing. Like, you strip to your boxer shorts, and then you lay down. Like, get a life. I think they need a lesson. Martel was shocked by the poor security. He gave his mobile number to me on the first night after I'd only known him a few hours. There was never any security there. I was very surprised. She went on to have a 5-year relationship with the prince until 2005, and made him godfather of her son, born in 2008. Do you think it's his son? Just a thought. Martel claimed she didn't mind about Andrew's other women. She and the Duke remain in touch to this day. Andrew chose to go on to Jeffrey Epstein's 8,000-acre ranch in New Mexico, according to his PPO, who kept a daily diary. The prince stayed in a 3-bedroom building near the ranch entrance. Zorro Ranch's former housekeeper, Deirdre Stratton, claims that over his 3-day stay, Andrew spent time with a young, beautiful neurosurgeon who kept him company. The neurosurgeon was Dr. Melanie Walker, whom Epstein had met while on a visit to New York after she graduated from the University of Texas. He had told her he could get her an audition to model for Victoria's Secret, an offer she turned down, but he had paid for her medical training, and on graduation she became the part-time science advisor for his foundation before working in China with the World Health Organization. A former worker at the ranch thought her incredibly charming. The rabbit he's playing in a basket. One of the most intelligent figures I ever met in Jeffrey's world. She seemed to click with the Duke. She knew him better than anyone in that circle. They spent a lot of time together and were inseparable. Walker later met Steven Sinofsky, a senior executive at Microsoft, and in 2006 she joined the Gates Foundation. Okay, sorry, I had to pause for a moment. Walker then met Steven Sinofsky, a senior executive at Microsoft, and in 2006 she joined the Gates Foundation. It was Walker who reputedly introduced Jeffrey Epstein to Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, with whom he was to become involved in several charitable ventures. She later became a professor of neurological surgery at the University of Washington School of Medicine. Walker had been one of the guests at Andrew's 40th birthday party the previous June. Interviewed in 2003, she claimed, "I've known Andrew almost 5 years. He is a good friend, but that's all it is. I probably see him for dinner at least once a year. He has a reputation as a womanizing sort of guy, but he's not. He calls me Mel and addresses me, 'Hey, dork,' or 'Smarty Pants.' We speak mostly about science and medicine." In December 2000, Epstein, Ghislaine, Tom Pritzker, then chairman of Hyatt Hotels, who Virginia Giuffre later claimed she was forced to have sex with, a woman called Kelly Spam, and an unnamed female landed at RAF Marham for a 2-day shooting party at Sandringham. Epstein in LL Bean hunting boots and $1,000 leather parka, where Andrew threw a surprise 39th birthday party for Ghislaine. The arrangement to allow the plane to land at the base was described as unusual by civil aviation sources, as Marham is the RAF's biggest frontline base and home to 4 Tornado squadrons. The Ministry of Defense insisted, however, that Epstein had been given no special treatment, and that civil aircraft were routinely allowed to land there. On Boxing Day, Andrew boarded another plane, having accepted an invitation to stay at the Amanpuri Resort in Phuket, the most expensive and exclusive hotel in Asia, where he was photographed on a yacht surrounded by topless women and having a water fight with the socialite Normandy Keith. The cuttings were faxed to Sarah, who was skiing in Verbier. There were reports he had wandered around the go-go bars in the red light district and attended a party thrown by Japanese fashion guru Kenzo Takada, at which most of the guests wore G-strings. Andrew wore a toweling toga. Andrew was drifting. A royal source let it be known that the Duke was not the most intelligent of men and was easily led. There is the specter of drugs hanging over almost everyone he's now associating with and almost everywhere he goes, and it is really not something a man of his position, and a father of 2 young daughters, should be getting involved in. Under the headline, "Topless Beauties and Exotic Party Animals Welcome to Andy's Troubling New Realm," the Daily Express called for the prince to be given a proper role. Having spent most of his life in institutions of some kind, from school to the Navy, he lacked the ability to manage his own life. Without the discipline of a timetable or a set of orders, he appeared rudderless. The solution lies in finding him something to do, and that function has to be found immediately, opined the tabloid, which I think that's true. I mean, you've never had to be a man on your own terms, and you are always having to look to someone else for guidance and what to do next, how to order your entire day, and then suddenly it's all yours. You wouldn't know what to do with it. He didn't even attend university, so it's not like he even had that sort of freedom of like, okay, do I go to class or do I not go to class? It was just, from frying pan into the fire, I guess. I mean, not really, because, going from school into the Navy that's not what I mean. But you know what I'm saying? It's like from one sort of strict, regimented place into the next. And then to suddenly just be done and to not have a daily job to do. The idle mind is the devil's playground. Andrew's new lifestyle could be traced back to his closer relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. Over the previous year, he had been on 8 different breaks with her, with Jeffrey Epstein joining them on 5 of them. It was Galen who had introduced Andrew to you know what's such a shame is that Galen is such a beautiful name. And now it's like marred forever. Like no one's going to name their baby Galen, right? Unless it's like your grandmother's name. And women who are named Galen now are going to be like, sorry. All right. It was Galen who had introduced Andrew to many of those women, with whom he had had brief flings, but she had also drawn him further into Epstein's net. A friend of Andrew's, close to his ex-wife, could see exactly what was happening. Galen is manipulating him, and he's too naive to realize it. She's his social fixer, and he's going along with it. Why? Because I think Epstein's fantastically impressed by it all. It's all very premeditated. The friend called Andrew a poor judge of character, easily impressed, and characterized him as going from being a couch potato to man about town with nothing better to do than go from one holiday to the next. Galen absolutely indulges him in whatever he wants to do next. When the Duchess was working in America, Andrew stayed up at Buckingham Palace in the week so he could go out to the clubs, not even returning to look after the children while their mother was away, according to the friend. He's spiraling out of control. He's even started dressing like a 25-year-old in jeans and blazer. He started having a girl massage him and manicure his toes. He even travels abroad with his own massage mattress. Please. In a few short months, Andrew, Duke of York, had embarked on a heady lifestyle in which he appeared to be rediscovering his youth, hooked by the wealth and reach of the new friends and the doors they could open. It was to be a dangerous combination. And we will stop there. Oh, no, we won't. No, we won't, because we just have one page left of this part before we go into part 5. So let's just read this. This last bit is entitled Recollections May Vary. In March 2001, Jeffrey Epstein paid for a 6-week trip for one of the girls who worked for him, Virginia Roberts, subsequently Giuffre, born in August 1983, was 17. At the age of 14, she had briefly lived on the streets and had been taken up by a 65-year-old sex trafficker, Ron Eppinger, with whom she had lived for 6 months. He later pleaded guilty to alien smuggling for prostitution, interstate travel for prostitution, and money laundering. Reunited with her father, who worked as a maintenance manager at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, Roberts had found work there as a spa attendant. In mid-2000, she met Ghislaine Maxwell at the club, and the socialite offered her a job, supposedly as a traveling masseuse for Jeffrey Epstein, but which would turn out to be her providing sexual services for his associates. In advance of the trip that she was about to take, Andrew picked out Virginia Roberts from several pictures emailed to him by Ghislaine, as if ordering from a catalog. The trip took in Paris, Spain, and Tangier before arriving in London on 9 March. According to Roberts, she stayed at Maxwell's house on Kinnerton Street in Belgravia, where, on their first morning, a chirpy Maxwell allegedly jumped on her bed and said, "Get up, sleepyhead, you've got a big day. You've got to go shopping. You need a dress, as you're about to dance with a prince tonight." She was told to be smiley and bubbly because he was the Queen's son. After a shopping spree at Burberry, they returned to Maxwell's home, where Virginia showered and dressed before joining her hosts at around 4 p.m. When I went downstairs, Ghislaine and Jeffrey were in the lounge. There was a knock at the door. Ghislaine led Andrew in, and we kissed each other on the cheek. Ghislaine served tea from a porcelain pot and biscuits. She knew Sarah Ferguson, and they talked fondly about Andrew's daughters. The 4 of them went to dinner, then to the private nightclub Tramp, where, Virginia said, Andrew danced with her. Prince Andrew was like, "Let's dance together," and I was like, "Okay," and he was a hideous dancer. She claimed in an interview with NBC News in 2019, "He was sweating profusely all over me." After an hour and a half at Tramp, they returned to Maxwell's home. All of us went upstairs, and I asked Jeffrey to snap a picture of me with the prince, Roberts said. I wanted something to show my mom. The picture, which was to remain unknown for a decade, would prove Andrew's downfall. Okay, that's where we will stop. This is getting good. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I am thrilled when you join me. I'm thrilled when you comment. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell, comment. Please, please, please comment. That's my favorite thing. And I will see, well, okay, I'm not sure if I'll see you tomorrow because I'm going to be at work all day, and then my man and I have dinner plans, so I might be off tomorrow. Otherwise, I will see you at some point this weekend. So have a great rest of your day. I will see you soon. Bye.